Okay, so take one of your feet, whichever way you want this to be pointing when you're done. So I want mine pointing that way, so I'm grabbing this foot. And you're gonna take the little square topper, and they're both going to be facing up with the stocking on top of the topper piece. Make sure that that top edge lines up. It should all match perfectly. And then go ahead and give that a 1/2 inch hem. So we got it on that 1/2 inch line. We're pinching our thread. Give it a little lock stitch. Pinch back here, make sure everything is lined up how we want it. And then give it its last little lock stitch. And raise that needle all the way to the top. Make sure that the thread lifter is all the way up. Raise your foot out to the edge. Nip the thread. Now you got that nice little 3-inch long tail and almost no tail on your work piece. Now we're gonna grab the other foot, the left foot, if I was doing the right foot first, and we're just gonna do that little 1/2 inch hem at the top. Drop that foot. Locking stitch, and this is a 1/2 inch fold. I'm putting my stitch between an 1/8 inch and a 1/4 inch from the top edge. Give it a lock stitch, pull it out, make sure that your needle's up and the thread lifter's up at the top. Cut your stitches, or not your stitches, cut your thread. You got that 3-inch tail, you got that pretty much clean. What I should have done with this guy before we went over is that topper piece, we're gonna flip that over and try and get it right up on where that stitch is. Okay, so now you can see it's coming over that way. Oh, actually, I missed a step. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna do a 1/2 inch hem here as well. Drop that foot, locking stitch. Yep. Okay, and I didn't want to advance, so I'm gonna lift the foot up and I'm gonna push it a little bit further forward because it has a little ball of thread that's preventing it from moving. Now it goes nicely. Give it its last little lock stitch. Cut that free. There. Now that there's a 1/2 inch hem on the bottom of that piece, or top, depending on how you're looking at it, you fold this over so you can see we got our folded piece. I should have done this in a contrasting color so it would have been easier for you guys to see. And also you can do that just as a fun design feature. Okay, so now we're gonna do what's called the top stitch. So you have that hem, and we're just pinching all of this because right now you see it wants to kind of fluff out. But if we fold it all how we want it and then put this top stitch, and somehow my needle came unthreaded. So we get to do that over again. But when things get all messed up, go ahead and unthread it. We got some sort of weird tension thing going on. I don't know what happened. And that is why we redo these things whenever there's an issue. In fact, we'll go ahead and do it and take the... Can you see all of this? Okay, put the thread on, go through the guide, down through the tensioner, make sure that that thread lifter is up at the top, go around so we hook it, come back down here through the needle guide, and then lastly through the eye of the needle. And don't pull it out of the eye of the needle once it's through. There we go. Okay, so that's rethreaded. Let's look back down here. Okay, so we're gonna go back to that top stitch, which is what happened. Oh, also part of why this went through is when I did that top stitch, I was not pinching the thread like I was supposed to, and that was what happened. So always pinch your threads when you start sewing. Yeah, locking stitch. And I'm gonna get this guy underneath the foot so it doesn't get drug along the way. Yep, okay, and it didn't want to feed. I'll lift that needle up. Advance it so that ball of thread's behind the foot, and continue on. And then a little lock stitch, thread lifter up to the top, pull it out, cut it. Okay, so we got the hem down there, we got the top stitch over these guys. The face is facing out on both pieces, both panels. I'm gonna trim off all this extra thread that we don't want. There we go. Okay, and this guy, the other foot, has its half-inch hem on the top. And I'm gonna clean that one up as well by getting rid of that thread. Okay, before I put these together, and when we put these together, we're gonna make sure it's face to face, so the back sides are out. But before I do that, we're gonna take our little hanger, and right up here towards the top, facing inward, actually, you know what, we're gonna do a 45-degree angle. Yeah, you can see that, so there's 90 and 90. 45 is halfway in between, obviously facing inward. Drop my foot. I'm probably gonna have to assist it through. There we go. Don't bang your finger on that guy. And then go back and forth at least 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna give it a 4th one. Who knows what Santa's gonna put on this thing? It might be kind of heavy. Okay. And we had a little tension issue. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Where's my camera? There it is. So it's lifting up here, which would indicate that the tension, oh, well, look at that. The tension's too high. It's up on 7. So remember, we need to be staying between, on this particular, on the brother, between the 3 and the 5, but that mid-range is where we want to be when we're sewing. Otherwise, stupid things like that happen. Okay. Bring that back through, trim that thread, and clean off stuff we don't want. That's on there. Get the other foot. So we got the feet lined up. I'm going to pinch these guys together so you can see these are right where we want them. Start sewing, give it a locking stitch. This is the most important locking stitch of all the locking stitches. In fact, all the locking stitches to this point you could get away without doing. This one, the entire thing will come apart if you don't locking stitch the top of this. Okay, I get to where I'm pinching. Now I'm going to realign all my bits and pieces and pinch them together right there. Keep a little tension on it. Okay, we got a little curve that we got to go around. We want to keep that same half-inch hem or seam allowance. Okay, now we got a, almost, there, now we have a straightaway, so I can pinch these guys together again, make sure they're all lined up the way we want them. Okay, and then we want to make sure that this, we can pull a little tension and have one tighter and like see how this one's a little shorter and that one's a little bit longer. If I pull it tight, then they'll both be even. But we want the end of this to be good, the same level, otherwise you're gonna end up with it looking kind of like that, which we don't want. So get those lined up, pinch them, keep a little tension. You're gonna have to pull on this. If you're pulling this way, you're fighting your feed dogs, so you gotta pull your fabric the opposite way as you're keeping tension on it, if you want it to look good. And when you get up to this little topper piece, you wanna make sure that that is in your seam allowance. If it's all pushed in like that, and it's not in your seam allowance, can you actually see that? My fingers are in the way. So that guy right there, beep. This is kind of hard to do. Okay, so if that guy gets pulled out like that and it's not in your seam allowance, then it's gonna not look good. But if everything's been laying flat, it should be perfectly right there, which mine is. So let's go back to holding those two perfectly level. And then I'm going to sew it all the way to the very last, and then I'm going to give it a lock stitch. And I'm actually going to give it a second lock stitch. And then I'm going to needle down, lift my foot, and pivot around, and I'm going to give it a second stitch all the way around, because right now this is single stitched, and if that thread were to break, then things are going to start falling out. So drop that foot back down. And this is where we get to go at our full speed, kind of like we do on the drag strip exercise. And if you swerve around a little bit, don't worry about it, because it's whatever stitches on the inside is the one where the fold is going to take place. And then we're all the way back up to the top. We're going to sew all the way to that edge. You can hear it sound a little cement mixery there. It's because it's going from 2 layers of fabric to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 layers just because this has been folded in half. We got 3 layers, all of which have been folded in half, making 6. Okay, and then thread up, or needle up, until the thread lifter's there. Let's cut it free and get rid of all that slack. Okay, so it's inside out. You can see I wasn't super straight. It got a little fat there, a little skinny there. I think the line actually crossed there. None of that ugliness is going to be seen because we're going to flip it right side out. Reach your hand in there, grab the toe, and then you guys should have an easier time of this because your hands are going to be smaller than mine. This is kind of a narrow stocking. Okay. There's our little top piece. There's the hanger. Oh, okay, so this is kind of interesting. The 45 that I did it at made it go down, so you might want to actually have it at a 45-degree angle that way, and then when it flips, it'll flip out from that direction to that direction, which is where you'd want it to hang from. This is just going to kind of force it to have a little bit of that backwards hang. Anyway, there's a toe flipped out, and if you really wanted to get after it, you could put a top stitch all the way around there, but that's going to reduce the amount of stuff that you can actually put in there. But there is your Christmas stocking. No, you probably weren't able to see that. Okay, so see how this guy's hanging down? It's because we put it this way, and when it flipped, it went that way, so you want to put it this way so it'll flip this way. That's it.